Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this hopefully sunny morning, wherever you are. Today in our webinar, we're carrying on our series looking at ambitious entrepreneurial businesses. And I think we can all appreciate that it's interesting times at the moment, isn't it? There's a lot going on in the world, lots of change. We are learning to live with COVID, as the phrase is quoted, and still presents a level of disruption. But of course, the world has dealt us a few new hands as well in terms of everything going on with Ukraine and also rising inflation. So hopefully people have joined us with a view of finding out a lot more about how great business leaders are dealing with these challenges. And today we're joined by two fantastic entrepreneurs and business owners, Paul Schaffer and Thomas Robson-Kanu. And in a moment, I'll just introduce those businesses to you. There will be a chance to ask questions as we go through. So if there are any questions, please just pop those in and we will aim to kind of answer those questions. If we don't get to answer those in the course of the conversation, then we will seek to answer those afterwards as well. But do fire those questions through, and if we can answer those, that will be fantastic. So just to introduce our two guest speakers, and so just introducing the two people. First of all, Paul. Paul is from Plum Play, so fantastic business building and selling play equipment. I'll let him introduce himself in a second and his business. I'm sure he'll do it in a much better way. But a fantastic business, operating, I believe, in 3 countries, selling into 57 across the world. So, and started back in 2015 with a big push for that global growth. So thank you, Paul, very much for joining us. Also, Thomas from business that's basically manufactures turmeric-based drinks, which hopefully many of you on this call have already tasted and tried. But again, this is a very fast growth area and launched only in 2018 and already massively expanding manufacturers here in the UK and selling out all over the world. So fantastic. In terms of just introducing Paul, first of all, do you want to just introduce yourself and say a little bit about your business?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me, Mark. My name is Paul Schaffer, so as you said, and I'm managing director at Plum Play. It was started 33 years ago now by my parents. We actually started off importing charcoal and actually anything you could possibly do. And now, 33 years later, sort of have the brand Plum, and we specialize in outdoor play equipment. So anything which gets your children off screens, outdoors, anything to grow and increase the imagination. So we're the leading UK supplier in trampoline, swing sets, play centres, dealing with all the major retailers and also to do some direct to consumer. We currently operate in 57 different countries, sell by distribution or agents, and we have offices in 3 countries and staff in 4. So we have an office in Hong Kong and Sydney, and we also have some employees in China.
Yeah, fantastic, Paul. Anything you can do to get kids out of the bedrooms with their computers and out into kind of the real world is very appreciated from my point of view, my 2 boys. So yeah, please, wish you every success with that one. And Thomas, turmeric drinks, do you want to introduce a little bit about yourself and your business as well? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. I'm Thomas Robson-Kanu, founder and CEO of the Turmeric Co. We launched in 2008 on the premise of bringing a range of natural, health-focused, functional turmeric shot drinks to market. The range was used by myself and by my family for over a decade to help my sporting career and help me recover from injuries and the intense demands of physical activity. We launched in 2018 after realizing that there was a significant gap in the market in terms of bringing high quality functional product to consumers. And what was currently on the market in terms of offerings were actually what we would class as cheap alternatives, in a sense where they were using filler ingredients such as apple juice or orange juice or water, whereas essentially our product was born out of necessity and contained completely 100% functional ingredients. An example being that our base of our shots is whole crushed watermelons. So we launched in 2018. We went down the route of trying to find a contract manufacturer through UK and through Europe. We couldn't find one who would follow our process and apply our production method. So we ended up building a bespoke manufacturing facility. Since then, we've scaled since launching into the likes of Planet Organic, Whole Foods Market, but we built the business as a digitally native vertical brand, building a really strong online community and advocacy around the product, which allowed us to build education through the range, which was very, very important in terms of the importance of nutrition through supporting health. So year on year, we've seen tremendous growth. We built a subscription replenishment model online, which is extremely strong. And we're now servicing tens of thousands of customers on a daily basis throughout the UK. We've just recently moved to a new manufacturing facility in Cambridgeshire, which is a 20,000 square foot unit, where we internally are fully vertically integrated, controlling our manufacturing, our production, and our distribution, as well as obviously building a brand and sales team. So that is the background behind the Turmeric Co.
Brilliant. And I'm sure everyone knows the benefits of turmeric. It's such a well-trod path. But just to hear it from yourself, why turmeric? Why is this such a in fashion, in vogue product? Yeah,
well, I actually began using the range, what my father produced 15 years ago now. So as a 17-year-old, and I used it to help recover from surgeries I had with the objective of reducing inflammation in my body and reducing swelling. Upon using it, it then became my secret weapon through my career, as I then forged my way in professional football, subsequently playing in the Premier League and at international level. I would have these turmeric shots homemade on a daily basis. And I noticed that I began to recover quicker than my teammates. I also then began to notice that I wouldn't get run down as easily. So we began distributing it to friends and family also. And they began reporting benefits from reduction of arthritis, helping support pain, helping support back pain, helping support energy, as well as boosting immunity. So it's the combination of the blends that we use, with turmeric being the flagship ingredient, but the base and the blend of the ingredients is actually the key. So each shot contains things such as whole crushed watermelon, pineapple, pomegranate, and ginger. And so all of these ingredients combined in a bioavailable, easy to absorb format make for a really potent but good tasting product. And I think that has been the key for us. So yeah, that's the
I'm going to ask you both the discount codes at the end as well. So anyone who's on this call, basically, they can go online later and get your product. But and let's go into some open questions then. So both of you very successful, your business is doing really well. What is it you attribute that success to? And Paul, I'll probably kick off with you first of all, if that's okay. So, everyone dreams of their business being something that expands into all these different countries, operating 4 countries and so forth. How? What is it about you? What's the magic ingredient? Oh, Paul, you just popped on the mute.
The absolute classic thing there. Yeah. I think it's one of those, I think we look at it sort of 4 sort of key things, sort of innovation, quality, safety, and value. I would say is how we look at it. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly differentiating, constantly challenging the status quo of what is a trampoline, what is outdoor play, what people need, and sort of always trying to lead the trends. I think for us, that's always been a differentiator, and we've put a lot of time and money into the innovation side, also into the brand side. It's we want it to be synonymous with quality and safety, and so we have a very strong value item, which will sit in people's gardens, and it sells itself once it's in people's. We're very proud of what we have when we get it there, and I think we will never put something with a Plum logo on it that we're not happy with ourselves, and not something that we would want to put our friends or families or anybody's children on as well.
And that brand point, that's a really interesting one, because we've learned in the past few years to live in a very cluttered space, haven't we? I mean, we are presented with things in a kind of through the internet or whatever, and we're almost being told by other people what should be bought. That brand point, how have you gone about really ensuring your brand stands out and people see your brand rather than competing brands?
I think it's sort of one of the crucial things is is just the way we sort of market ourselves differently. We've always sort of led the way when it comes to selling online. I guess our products are massive, so the amount of store space we get is very limited in proportion to the items we've got. So we've been online selling since online selling began, and we've been selling items at a high price point when people were previously nervous about selling online. You know, we sell items £1,000 to £3,500 items, and people buy them comfortably online from a trusted brand and happy to spend the money. I think that's on the marketing side. We constantly challenging, we're constantly evolving how we do it, and I've had to become more digitally led on what we do. But at the same time, because of the nature of our products, we also look to try and create more physical experiences as well, because we know that nothing beats our product when you look, feel, and touch. That's also a true differentiator for us, because everyone can have a pretty picture. Mm. But it's actually when we put our product next to somebody else's product, we know that's where it stands for, and consumers can tell the difference.
And help me with that one. How do we reconcile that with people buying large volumes online? And as you said there, that experience piece is a really important part to differentiate and all of that. How do you do that in a world that over 50 countries that you're selling to? How do you make sure people get what you're about?
I think one of the so we've had to do some sort of more. I mean, obviously we use a lot of influencer-led marketing is obviously crucial now, and also we do some physical work with creches, forest schools, physical shows. You know, at the PGA Tour, we sponsored a creche, and we're doing bits where we actually get our product in front of people. We also know that one of our biggest sellers, just from a survey we always have online, is word of mouth. So we know the more products into people's gardens, the more people will back it and will follow that. And I think that's probably my favorite ratio. Is I know that when people is on the survey thing, how did you see it? It's word of mouth. And I think that's one of the strongest pieces when you know the brand is doing well, is that people are recommending it to somebody else for somebody else's children.
Brilliant. So the whole net promoter piece is so important in terms of people saying it. And Thomas, I mean, some of those things must resonate with you as well in terms of that, those success factors. But from your point of view, the key to success?
Yeah, I would say the key to success is really having clear and defined purpose. So for us as a brand, we're passionate about changing people's lives in a positive way through nutrition. And off the back of that, we've been able to establish a clear product with clear differentiators in that, as we said, you know, we're a British made, a British manufactured product, but more importantly, as a business, we control our manufacturing. So we have essentially become a manufacturing specialist for our product range, and the actual production process of how we produce every single shot is unique only to us. And we have a really unique way in the way that we extract the ingredients, and then also the blends that go into the ingredients. So the differentiator allows us to not only position ourselves as a high quality but available and convenient solution, but also build an advocacy around that purpose. So aligning with like-minded organizations, brands, businesses who also have similar values and are aiming to achieve and impact society in the same way. So through that, we've been able to build a really strong online digital presence. We've been able to build some incredible stories, not only internally, but externally through our customer base, through our partners, through individuals who are turning to natural nutrition to support their health and well-being. The key then is to capture that and distribute that in an effective way through various channels. As we said, you know, launching the business as a digitally native vertical brand, it allowed us to educate and control that customer journey for every single customer. So things such as segmentation online, understanding our customer groups, understanding the recency, frequency, and monetary value of customer segments really allows us to talk directly to consumers, not only educating them on the value proposition of our product and the habitual nature of use, and then encouraging that, but then also making sure that we're touching them at the correct consumer touch points to help nurture them along the way on their journey to supporting health and well-being. And
what strikes me about both of you in this is the importance of values. I mean, Paul, your opening comments were very much about get the kids out into the fresh air and all of that. Is basically something as a dad I can kind of relate to. And Thomas, very much again, you were talking about values there in terms of understanding your market and getting across the quality and the benefits and everything else. Well, how do you see the importance of those values in terms of defining the business and what you're about? Paul, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think it sort of adds that authenticity. You know, I think a lot of the things that we now look at that we don't shout about, that we've been doing for the longest time. You know, I see people now going about FSC, and we've been FSC since FSC's inception, and it's been ethically audited, and that's also part of the family values and the culture, I guess, that we've been brought up with, and how I lead and how we do things. And I think that's and people buy into that. I think both in the consumers, but also in the staff. And staff have also got to follow through on that exact piece. And people are proud of what we do. And I think it makes a massive difference when people are happy to do that, because they also become your biggest advocates as well. And when your internal people are also your strong advocates, it just means that consumer message and everyone else, it adds that strength and message. Just the brand authenticity, I think, would be the simplest way to put it.
Brilliant. And both of you, I mean, you're talking a lot about the positives there in terms of the business. So I think all of us would get that business is not easy and there are many challenges. What do you see as being the biggest challenges currently facing your businesses? Tom, so I don't know if you want to kick off.
Yeah, sure. There's multiple challenges. Given the current state of the economy, society in general. We track every response that we have and every customer engagement through our CSM software. And examples of we've noticed over the last 6 weeks the reason for subscription cancellation, and every business will have a level of churn. Ours thankfully stays relatively stable, but the reason for churn over the last 6 weeks we have noticed has been around price, and it has been around the customer unable to maintain that level of spend as part of their month to month, week to week routine. So I think as an economy overall and a market generally, I think price is going to be a really big challenge over this next 18-month period, because there is undoubtedly an increase in costs across the board, whether it be through packaging, whether it be through ingredient, supply chain, unavailability of products due to economical circumstances, and obviously, global ramifications of the current events taking place. So I think price is going to be a really big challenge, and one which, as businesses and business leaders, we need to make sure we navigate, because we want to continue to make sure that our products are competitively priced, but at the same time we need to also have an effective margin for the business. So I think that's the first and the clear one. The next one is for us as a business is really around supply chain, and making sure that we have a robust infrastructure around the ingredients that we source, the packaging that we source, and that we have the required supply in terms of that demand. So for the business, I'd say those are the two clear challenges definitely presenting themselves.
Yeah, brilliant. Interesting challenges there. Paul, from your point of view, the same, different?
No, I think those two challenges are absolutely probably two of the biggest challenges, and I think every business around is facing them and trying to negotiate how everyone navigates that part. And I think that comes back to that sort of value proposition, the quality of the ingredients, quality of our products, and how we want to differentiate ourselves and make sure that we're capturing that spend when people come to choose a brand. They choose us. I think supply chains absolutely. I mean, just in time doesn't exist as a concept. It's now getting back to it, and I think container prices we're starting to see the dropping down of that. However, fuel prices have increased a little bit. So there's always going to be challenges, and there's always have been challenges. You've got Brexit, you've had all these things coming before. I think you almost become punch drunk from dealing with it. But I think one of the great things, which also gives me massive confidence going into all these challenges, that you keep dealing with challenges, and we keep hitting speed bumps, and you keep doing it, and it's sort of just leading with your chin and getting hit a little bit each time, but each time moving forward positively in making changes and adapting to it. And I think it's about keeping a truly nimble business.
Yeah, so I'll come on to supply chain in a bit, because that you both mentioned that, but I'll come on to the first bit you kind of mentioned there, Thomas, and also Paul, around consumer trends. To what extent is your current success a function of temporary trends? So by that I mean, the 2 years of lockdown and not being able to get out, therefore we kind of were out running, we're out cycling and all of that. And what do? You take kind of turmeric and things like that to kind of help with all the injuries you probably sustained through that. But also the buying online, is that because we weren't able to pop along to the shop and buy what was on the shelf, so instead we were going online? How do we understand what's permanent and what is actually just a function of us just having to deal with the last couple of years? What's your view on that, Thomas?
Yeah, I think for a business, I think this is where really understanding your consumer and actually communicating to your consumer is really important. Asking questions, which again, as a business where you have, thousands of customers, it's sometimes hard to make that step to actually have personalized conversations with them. What we've seen as a really key element is running qualitative and quantitative research on a consistent basis and almost running this quarterly. And what you're looking for in this sense is groups within the segments of your customers. So your highest value to customers, as opposed to customers who have purchased one time only. They're two clear different segments of customers, and selecting 5 or 10 of these customers from each of these groups, and actually conducting a survey with them, asking for 30 minutes of their time and asking key questions around why did they begin using the product? Where did they actually see the brand? What was the reason? What made them convert in terms of make a purchase? And then why did they either continue purchasing or why did they stop purchasing? And information such as this is so valuable for a business, because actually you begin to understand, like you said, whether it's trend based. I was at home, I had nothing else to do, i.e. lockdown. So I was searching online and I made a purchase. Or it was, I'm in real need of a product which really helps me. I didn't find it anywhere else, and I thankfully found it through your brand. So from there, you can begin to spot, like you said, trends and patterns, which will then allow you to understand, okay, well, where are our ideal customer profiles actually consuming information and consuming brands and learning about the brand in different sectors. And so
sorry, I was going to say, I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. So basically what I think I'm hearing from you is, rather than just relying on instinct, and there's a lot of businesses out there that are fundamentally just relying on instinct, or they're just spending on advertising because that's what they have seen others do. You're actually saying you're approaching this quite scientifically. You're actually sitting there trying to understand the underlying trends and consumer behaviors to help you adapt and change to your market. Is that right?
Precisely, and it's actually that information is invaluable, because it allows you to pivot, or it allows you to scale up activity. And a really simple way of doing it, if you don't have the resources to really go in depth to that level and break down several different customer segments and communicate with them, is just running a simple survey post purchase and saying, where did you hear about us? Why did you purchase the product? 2 simple questions, which will be 2 clicks of a button for the customer, but actually gives you a wealth of information when you look at the volume of customers who will be purchasing the product. But the key then is actually pivoting and making sure that you're using that information to direct your strategy moving forwards. So in terms of patterns and trends, there's always going to be patterns, there's always going to be trends. And as a business, you have to make sure you're positioning yourself in a place where you're achieving the necessary distribution, aligned with the necessary awareness of the brand and product, to ultimately continue to grow and service customer groups.
Brilliant. And Paul, again, you can sit there and say, is play equipment a function of we couldn't go on holidays, we couldn't get out, so guess what, I have to make my back garden as fun as possible, and so I'm going to spend? Or is it no, we've shifted behavior and we're living much more these outdoor lifestyles and people are engaging? How do you see it, and how do you understand the game? What's permanent and what is trend?
I think a lot of these things pre-COVID we were seeing happening already. People were always becoming more and more house conscious and proud and want nice things, want their garden to look aesthetically pleasing. We noticed trends in our own products which were happening that way. And also we'd seen with the increase in screen usage in kids, you think that actually be inversely proportional to what we do. You think more PlayStation games sold, actually the less trampolines and swing sets you should sell. Actually, the more iPads get put in schools, actually it's better for us, because people look at that and they look at their children, they look at how much time has been spent on a screen, and they don't want that to then be the same in the home life. They need that outdoor, and they know they need the release. And I think public parks, unfortunately, because of how it works at the moment, these days, there's a nervousness around them. There doesn't need to be, but there is a nervousness about it. So therefore, people want that same energy release at home, and that's what we provide. And I think what we've seen now in terms of trend is it's that quality family time. We did a massive survey where we went through 1,000 different people to find out, how they interacted differently post-COVID. People are spending more time with their families. They're now working from home more. They're valuing the time that, a few days a week, people might be at home. People might not even still be at home. So they still need a distraction for the children. And I think people have also moved out of city. We've seen a trend, and there's a whole pile of new consumers coming through as a result, where people have more space. I think it's, we've been selling play equipment for the last 20 years. So, in terms of trend, it's still there. I think that people still want that authenticity and that release that we provide.
So let's move on to that supply chain issue that you both mentioned. So it probably been the biggest symptom that we've seen in the last few years. This current situation, the biggest challenge has been a supply chain one. What have you changed or adapted to mitigate those risks and those issues?
Yeah, I think in terms of, I think COVID, the period of COVID for businesses which were, fortunate enough to continue operation during that time was a really good lesson and also test for businesses, because it forced you to really change either your business model or a key element of your operations. And for us, it was around the level of stock that we held in the business completely changed. We almost changed, to 10x what we were previously holding, just because there was that level of uncertainty and that level of risk, which was, extremely, amplified because of the pandemic, because there was so much uncertainty around it. So, but actually what that allowed us to do was really create a robust infrastructure around the business moving forward. So now when we're seeing these issues in terms of supply chain due to, the events happening, within Ukraine and through Russia, although they are still impacting the business, actually the buffer that we've had to create in terms of making sure we are really offset against any risk factors in terms of supply chain and stock holding are almost negligible, because we've prepared for it in advance. So an example of this, being, one of the ingredients that we use is a organic raw sunflower lecithin that we use as part of a blend of our new vitamin C and D3 turmeric shot. Typically, we'd look at £10 per kilogram for this ingredient. Overnight, it increased to £33 per kilogram. And they also said that there is less than 6 months holding in their reserves at this moment in time. And so what we were able to do, was the fact that we were already holding a significant amount, we were able to, make a smaller purchase, which would then allow us to, give us a buffer of up to 9 to 12 months. But again, making sure that we've got multiple different suppliers who can supply that ingredient allowed us to really offset that risk and allow it to not jeopardize the business in any way.
So obviously that means increased working capital, more money's tied up in your stock holdings effectively. And you mentioned there about diversifying suppliers. So a clear strategy in terms of how you're addressing that to ensure continuity. Paul, is it the same approach for yourself? Is that fundamentally how you mitigate the supply chain challenges?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely. We've done very much a similar thing. We've increased our supply base. in order to meet demand. And we've also, yeah, same thing, we've had to hold more stock. The lead times from the Far East have become crazy, the costs have become crazy, and actually, as I said earlier, just in time, it vanished off the face of the earth. We were ordering containers supposed to come in July, arrived in November. We had one stuck on the Ever Given. That comes. We're lucky our products don't go off, but we still have seasons. We're still seasonal, so you can't afford to miss your crucial season. So because of the position we managed to get the business into and driven forward, and it allowed us to increase the stock holding, so ensure that we were never going to be short of the items.
What about substitution? Is there any stuff here where you say, rather than getting that stuff, which is quite hard to get hold of, we're going to change, in your case, Thomas, the recipe, or Paul, in your case, the supplier of the products, or have you fundamentally stayed true, if you like, to the original products?
We've stayed true to the original products. We've moved. We've always had some European and some Far East of the same sort of items already, just from the way we ship into different countries, to the US and also into the UK. So we've always had a bit of differentiating of certain products. But yeah, it's certainly, we haven't changed the items at all, but maybe the base changes a little bit.
And yourself, Thomas, still the same recipe, or have you shifted anything? Or
no, we can't. We wouldn't be able to change recipe without sort of fundamentally changing the product. So and our customers, we wouldn't expect our customers to accept that, and nor would we accept that either. So again, that has been why it's so important for that particular element around supply chain, and making sure that, as I said, we're offsetting the risk, and we have multiple options, even if for a period, there is a higher price for that, we will look to absorb that into our margin, but consistently being able to deliver that continuity through our product range is a key element and a key driver of our success also.
So I think that's really interesting. So as I understand both of your businesses, you're at the quality end, and therefore this challenge from consumers with inflation to drop price, to substitute for lower cost inputs and things like that, which actually as a consumer I could understand you doing, say, we found a cheaper wood source, or we found a cheaper version of turmeric or something like that, or whatever. You're actually saying, no, we're a quality brand, we're going to stick with the quality which we know was right at the beginning, and yeah, there's consequences and we have to manage those consequences. Does that sound right?
Yeah, without doubt. I think it's critical as well, and I think that also, having that as a key driver will help differentiate the brand and the product further, because no doubt there are brands, who are within the same product category, who are substituting, who are looking for cheaper alternatives, and who will look to reduce the price. But actually, if we can maintain the price, and for us as a business, our objective is to, as we continue to scale, drive those economies of scale through our product, and those cost savings eventually being offset on the price and making it more and more affordable for people to consume regularly. That's our ultimate ambition. So yeah.
Perfect. So both of you successful in entering new markets, and again, interesting challenges over the last few years of how you do that, how you go about differentiating and so forth. What's the key here? How do you, let's pick America or whatever, how do you break into new markets or new demographics? What's the $1 million piece of advice that you give to anyone listening in?
Yeah, I think one of the crucial things in how we've always done something is we just go and we know what people are doing, and we go and offer. We just do it better, right? It sounds simple, but we offer a value item with innovation and quality that will rival and compete with anybody. And I think that's sort of what's enabled us to grow and scale in all these different countries, is that we've come in, offered something different, and people have seen it, especially in trade shows. People walk around and can compare items and compare suppliers, and people look for something different. I think that's where we come on, and we make it constantly interesting for retailers and different distributors to come past us, because they want to see what's new. And I think that excitement, that buzz, means that you end up being front of mind, because people want to see what's changing. Because much like you might think, well, how can you change a trampoline? What is a trampoline? But people are looking for it. There's always something changing. We're always doing something different. There's always a piece of innovation, a different pattern coming out, and people want to see that and want to come past.
Yeah, brilliant. Thomas?
Yeah, I think definitely innovation, as Paul mentioned, it is key. So we have a internationalization strategy. We're going to be launching into Germany and then Europe over the course of this year. And again, understanding what that consumer, what is currently serviced in the market, what the consumer's needs are within that market, and then looking to innovate through our product range into that specific market. So we've got a strategy where we're going to be servicing 2 particular products, which are slight variations of what we do and how we service in the UK into Europe initially. And off the back of that, we'll look to continue to expand and look at further afield also. So innovation is key, and then servicing that market with a higher quality but cost-effective solution is ultimately key.
Brilliant. People's a topic that comes up a lot, in the sense of probably we did a survey a few years ago. The biggest barrier to success was actually access to talent and access to resource. And again, one piece of evidence we've got from some of the work we've been doing is we're seeing kind of organisational stretch where the entrepreneurs are getting on with growing the markets and growing the business, but some of the way that the business is operating, some of the people, it's kind of left a little bit pre-COVID, for want of a word, or a little bit kind of operating in old ways. How have you gone about ensuring that the whole organisation is moving with you as you expand, change and adapt? What's the key to bringing the team with you?
Yeah, I think the key element for us as a business is having a clear vision for the business, and then making sure that everyone within the business is aligned to that vision. So our 10-year, 5-year, 3-year and 1-year goals and objectives, everyone within the business has visibility of those goals and aligns with them. And it's very difficult as you continue to grow as an organization. And for us as a business, we're unique in a sense where we have multiple different functions within the business which don't normally sit within consumer packaged goods brands. And what I mean by that is most of the consumer packaged goods brands in the UK will have a contract manufacturer. So they'll place purchase orders and they'll say, yeah, we want this amount of volume, we want to collect it on this date and it delivered here. Whereas what we're a manufacturing specialist, and then we also control and manage our own distribution, as well as obviously being a brand and then a sales channel also. So for us, it's making sure that each of these functions are aligned with that overall vision, but then actually managed in a way where we have standard operating processes, we have standard ways of working throughout the business. So there are key metrics which each function within the business are working towards, and everyone within the organization has a clear number on a weekly or monthly basis, which this is the target to hit, this is the objective. And so that's the first element. Again, establishing the right seats within the organization. There's a lot of individuals where there's double work a lot of the time in businesses. Like, we try and reduce that completely, so everyone has a clear role and responsibility, but then also making sure that the individual within that seat actually has the tools and the appetite, they want it and they get it to deliver within that function. So it's been a progression for us, because we've really had to drive that organizational structure, but define the key responsibilities and the key objectives within each function, and then within each role within that function of the business.
And can I ask how you do that? Is that a top-down feature? Do you sit in the kind of your room and say, right, I think this is what quality looks like for the warehouse team and this is what's needed? Or how do you manage the engagement piece so that the actual, stick with the warehouse example, the warehouse team get their role in that vision and what's important to delivering the quality that's needed? How do you go about that engagement piece?
Yeah, it's a top down, but it's also collaborative within the individuals or the leaders within that specific function in the organization. So it's clearly defining, do we have a, boxes distributed per hour of labor cost within our warehouse? What are the standard operating procedures within the warehouse in terms of standards, quality controls? So it's really defining those and then effectively just assigning responsibilities. So everyone in the organization has a clear list of recurring tasks which they're responsible for. Then they have a clear list of KPIs and numbers which they need to hit or be contributing towards supporting on a weekly basis. And then you have, sort of segmented meetings, as we try and reduce meeting time to as little as possible. So you have key meetings at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week, where you effectively have a review, and then you have an assessment for the week ahead. So again, it's just the structure and the organization that we've looked to implement, and that's how we're sort of able to really drive forward a very dynamic business function.
Yeah, Paul, same question really about that, designing the business really and the people within the business to achieve those goals. How have you gone about doing that?
I think a lot of it comes down to communication. I think it's communication is absolutely critical, and people absolutely buying into 100% what you're doing and how the business is going. And I think at the end of in 2020, we all sat down as a business, all the different departments, and just looked at it and went, you know what, we've stuffed up some stuff here, and we've done really, really well, and we've pushed everything to the brink of what we can do, and we've done well. We've really pushed through it, but it was harder than it had to be. So it was about then taking ownership, but everybody had to sit down. Every department went through and came down with their own project plan as to what everyone had to do. Said, this was great, this was horrendous, this was tougher than it needed to be. We're missing gaps here. This is where we're lacking with the consumer. This is where we're lacking internally. And that whole piece has been really important, because it made everyone critically analyze what actually was going on in their departments. Same thing like, what's a waste of time? People were spending a lot of time doing stuff that actually wasn't valuable, whereas actually there were certain parts where you go, well, actually leave that, do this, and actually the business is better, and actually their job satisfaction also becomes better, because actually that thing which takes a long time, which isn't delivering much, isn't the right thing you needed to do, and we can automate it. So it was a whole process, internal review, where we were really tough on ourselves, because we wanted to be the best, and we wanted to be able to grow faster, and we knew that we could be a barrier to our own success here, because we were bottlenecking in all sorts of different places. And yes, everybody did over the COVID situation, but you can do it once, but you don't want to have it do it again, because then it's definitely our fault.
Yeah, and the interesting in there is the kind of balance between performance culture and purpose-led culture. So do you believe the people in your organization buy into yourselves because of what Plum Play, because of what Turmeric Co represent, or is it a focus on achieving metrics and goals? How do you do people believe in the purpose, and how do you make sure that is how the organization operates? Paula,
it's an interesting question. I think absolutely. I think people when they look to join us and they come to do it, I think that's one of the absolute attractions as to what we do. It always comes up. You're sustainable. We really love what you do. Love the website. Love what you guys stand for. But we're absolutely performance. The job is performance led, right? Everybody's job is. My job is performance led, right? We have to deliver. It's not if we do what we're doing, we will deliver the purpose. So I think you can't have one. I've struggled to see how one goes in isolation. I think the purpose helps attract people and retain people. Of course, I think it does. But the performance has got to be there to be able to make sure that we are continuing to push the boundaries and not staying and satisfied with the status quo.
Brilliant. Thomas, from your point of view?
Yeah, I think my personal background in elite team sports really helped me structure and understand, the importance of the team and the philosophy and the culture of that organization or the movement or the business, and making sure that everyone has to buy into that in order for there to be a level of success. So the first element is that buy-in. Like, you have to be here for the journey. You're not here for a 2-week, 1 month period. Like, if you're coming on board, you're coming on board for this journey, and this is our 10-year plan. This is the 10-year project. Yeah, sure. Was just saying, that everyone within the organization has to be aligned with that purpose. And then the key for us as, sort of business leaders, management, leadership team, is to make sure that there are clear KPIs, there's clear objectives, there's clear processes to get those results. And I think that's the perfect combination and the perfect storm. And you see it with the large conglomerates of organizations. They've been able to maintain that level of infrastructure, and when they've had a dip, that's the first thing that they go back to. You know, how can we get everyone onto the same page and then begin to drive towards that common goal? So I think as Paul said, I think they're ultimately one and the same if your objective is to achieve results.
Brilliant. And I suppose one of the problems I see with lots of entrepreneurial businesses is they start somewhere, they move through as they grow, etc. And you get those awkward bits that the people that were right or the structure that you had in the organization at the start isn't the right structure at this stage, isn't the right structure here. How have you gone about changing the way that your teams operate over your growth story? How do you make sure you have the right people in the right roles and move? Do people move around as you change, or how's that handled?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question and a common challenge for any growing business. What we've ultimately done is, as I said, made sure that we've got a clear structure, and a clear strategy around that structure. So if there is the opportunity for internal role progression, which I think for employees, you always want to give employees in the business the opportunity to really progress within their roles. It's completely understandable, but at the same time, as you scale and move on to levels which require new skill sets, different dynamics within that armory of managing a team or executing a strategy, there's always going to be that element of, you need additional talents to come in here and deliver. And I think the key objective is making sure that that talent is aligned with your vision, because a lot of the time, whether it's a sales director coming in with extensive experience within the FMCG space, they're going to have a distinct way of working. Now, if they can actually initially align and buy into your purpose, buy into the vision, buy into your ways of working as an organization and the culture that you have, then actually, again, that's the perfect combination, because they actually come in, although they may be senior than the majority of individuals within the business, they're actually aligned with the mission. So there can be no form of, disgruntlement or, unhappiness from team members who maybe have been there from the start. So I think, and then on the flip side, it's also saying, well, like Paul said, it's communication. You have to communicate and say, look, we're bringing in this hire. They've got extensive experience and they're here to ultimately get us to the next level of our growth and of our progression as a business. And then on the flip side, if there is that unhappiness, then you need to be asking the question, well, what is your objective, for the existing employees? Like, what do you really want to achieve? Because they can help us get there. So it's just that management and communication.
And Paul, from your point of view, that agile, adaptive organization that can scale with you as you grow, how do you manage that?
Yeah, so I guess it's a similar sort of way, isn't it? You make sure that the people coming in are absolutely. I mean, I'm a completely transparent person when you come to jobs. So this is what your job is going to be. Well, you cannot come to me in a few months' time and say, if you come to me and say this is a surprise, then I've done a terrible job of interviewing, and you have done a terrible job of asking questions, right? Because you must ask the right questions, and I'll give you whatever it is, because I'm not here to trick you, and you are not here. You shouldn't be telling me something I want to do, and if anything, I'll spell it out more than it is, just because I want to be able to see if people want to come in and can bring in that same culture and that work ethic. Because I know that that's what the longevity in the staff here who've stayed here for a very long time. We've got good, very strong core staff who've moved with the business and seen it through tougher times and continue to adapt. Yes, of course, we change the systems and we try to make things better all the time. But people have also seen some of the hard times and pushed through in the good times, and they're here to stay and continue to adapt and change. And it's important that anybody coming into the business has that same mentality.
Yeah. So got a question that's coming as well. I've got a couple of questions actually. Thomas, just on that ESG point, just that I was asking Paul when you lost your signal, because you're going for B Corp, is that right? Or you're thinking about going for B Corp? How does ESG fit into your world?
Yeah, ESG is massive, particularly when we've got such a close relationship with a core part of our customer group. We know that the impact that we have on the environment, on society, and how we manage the business is really important to our customers. So everything from example to our how we source and the makeup of our bottles or our packaging solutions, and making sure that they're from recycled material or are recyclable, but then also building in initiatives such as our recycling returns campaign, where every single one of our online customers can return their bottles and their packaging free of charge with every online order. So building elements like that in, we see the traction and the impact that it has on our customers, and then also on the the value and understanding and the perception of our brand as we continue to drive forward and bring value to people. So I think in terms of B Corp, what we're looking at there, we're delighted to be underway in terms of the certification there, and it's our objective to achieve that over the course of the year. But in terms of ESG, it's fascinating seeing that that's a real core element of achieving a B Corp certification. So, and a massive element is that internal governance of how you manage your business, how you actually set targets. What are those targets? What are the defining elements within those targets? Do they have an element that impacts society, impacts the environment, and is the governance really aligned with sustainability throughout the course? So it's fascinating. And I think for any business now, whether you're starting up or whether you're operating, if you don't have that embedded within your core in terms of ESG, you're already failing. So
yeah. I think we're seeing that a lot as we talk to businesses, that shift from a lip service to carbon footprint or something like that, which is a really important thing. People realizing that it's deeper than that, it's wider, it's everything, it's sustainability, it's the way you deal with the people, it's the way we run our business and all of that. It's so much deeper. Good luck with that B Corp journey that you're going on. I'm really glad to hear as well about the plastic bottles, because I have to say that's the biggest grievance I've got with those shots. It's the fact that you fill your plastic bin with all these little things. So the fact you're recycling those, love it. So fantastic. The other question that's come in is really around the next stage for you both in terms of your next growth milestone in the business. Is there anything so what is the next step for you in terms of your business? What's the next big goal? And what are barriers to achieving that you see?
From our side, I think it's a continued internationalization. I think, we've got a lot, we're in 57 different countries, and I think internationalization and driving further penetration in different markets, especially North America and Europe, I think is just an incredibly exciting opportunity. I think it's our absolute next step is to crack those two markets.
Brilliant. Thomas?
Yeah, I think for us, we're really excited about the innovation within the brand. We've launched the business off of 3 SKUs. We've got 4 in total, and we've been able to grow, the volume of the business to the point where we're at now on that. In terms of new product development, with our capacity and the capabilities that we now have, we're looking to launch a new product every quarter from July onwards. So within 18 months, we're going to be looking at close to 10 SKUs, aligning that then with the internationalization initially of Germany and Europe. For us is the next stage, and a really exciting stage, because it's going to be brand building, it's going to be awareness, it's going to be replicating everything that we've done within the UK further afield, but then also making sure that we're continuing to drive penetration within the UK, and we're speaking with a number of key accounts to really drive significant growth and penetration too.
Last question then from me is, how do you keep yourselves going? I mean, seriously, it's fine talking about the challenge of the business and everything else, but you guys have had to endure through the past few years and keep going, and you're talking in a really positive way about that future growth and next steps and ambitions for the business. How do you keep yourself going?
I think the challenges is part of what makes it exciting, right? If it was easy, I'd find it a bit boring, right? It's the challenge and then also the wins. I love every moment that we get a different country. We sold to Madagascar the other day. I mean, that was
brilliant.
I loved it. I was like, brilliant. There's trampolines now going into Madagascar. I mean, who would pick that as a country? I mean, it just gives me a super buzz. And I go, that's the sort of stuff which gets, every time that happens, I go, this is super exciting. There's more places to go. There's other countries to get to. And I think the opportunity is what keeps me hungry, and knowing that we can get there also just is that like a fire behind you.
Love it. Thomas, from your side.
Yeah, brilliant. I think you always have goals, longer term goals. One of ours is to distribute to 100 million units, within 3 to 5 year time. But for us, and for me personally, it's about the process and it's about the journey. And that's something, again, which I learned from elite sports, having a career at the top level of my sport. It's actually the process, and you have to buy into and be passionate about the process. So seeing every single customer review where we're impacting someone's life, that we're educating on the value on nutrition, health, wellness, driving lifestyle change. It's that process and it's that journey which is actually the passion driver, and ultimately what keeps us going. You know, the wins are fantastic, you know, long may they continue, but if you buy into the process and actually enjoy that, that's what's going to, you know, maintain that level of commitment.
Massive thank you both to Paul and Thomas for being so open and insightful around your own businesses. One of the challenges which actually comes up a lot with businesses, and we talked about some of our own in research that we've got, is businesses often think about one area, and when you ask people what you focus on, they look at that one area. And we've developed this 7P method that says, let's look across the whole of the business. So people, processes, purpose, profit, performance, productivity, and place. And that model basically helps business owners just have a little think around, have we got all our bases covered? Have I neglected part of the business? Is there somewhere I can think? So there's a little QR code there, and if you scan that and go through, there's a short diagnostic just designed to help businesses think a little bit wider about things. And we've been told by businesses as they've done that, that's made them think of other areas. So you've heard here today B Corp, you've heard about supply chain, you've heard about the consumer trends. We didn't even get talking about, you know, products that you might have stopped producing as a result of changing trends and things like that, and the ability to understand performance by area. So I do encourage businesses just to kind of go on to that and answer those questions. And that's really helpful just to make you think across the board. But Paul, Thomas, big thank you to both of you for everything that you've shared with us today. It's certainly given me a lot of thought to think about my own business. And thank you everyone else for joining us today. If you do have any questions after this, then do message across and we will endeavour to answer those. But thank you very much. Have a lovely day, everyone. And thank you for joining us. Take care.